when Jennifer showed the cafe waitress a photo of the missing girl poster on her phone. The young woman's face went white with terror, and she whispered, "Please don't tell them you found me." Jennifer Hayes had been looking forward to her solo trip to Berlin for months. As a 45-year-old librarian from Manchester, she rarely took vacations alone, but her recent divorce had given her both the freedom and the emotional need to explore somewhere new. Berlin, with its rich history and vibrant cafe culture, had seemed like the perfect destination for some much-needed self-reflection and cultural immersion. On her third morning in the city, Jennifer found herself in a cozy cafe called Zeitgeist in the trendy Prenzlauer Berg district. The establishment had that perfect combination of vintage charm and modern comfort that seemed to define Berlin's cafe scene. Exposed brick walls were decorated with local artwork, mismatched vintage furniture created intimate seating areas, and the aroma of freshly ground coffee beans filled the air. Jennifer had claimed a small table near the window, where she could watch the busy street life while enjoying her cappuccino and planning her afternoon museum visits. The morning crowd was beginning to thin out, leaving behind a more relaxed atmosphere, perfect for reading and people-watching. The waitress who had served her coffee was particularly striking, a young woman who appeared to be in her mid-20s, with long blonde hair and distinctive green eyes. She moved through the cafe with practiced efficiency, but Jennifer noticed something melancholy in her demeanor, as if she was performing her duties while her thoughts were elsewhere entirely. Katharina, as her name tag identified her, spoke fluent German with what sounded like a native accent, and she had served Jennifer with professional politeness, tinged with the kind of reserve that suggested she preferred to keep interactions brief and impersonal. Still, there was something familiar about her that Jennifer couldn't quite place. Jennifer had always prided herself on having a good memory for faces, a skill that had served her well during her 20-year career as a librarian, helping patrons locate information and resources. But this particular sense of recognition was frustrating because it felt important, not just a casual reminder of someone she might have seen in passing. As she sipped her coffee and watched Katharina work, Jennifer found herself studying the young woman's features more carefully. The shape of her eyes, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when concentrating, even her posture and gait, seemed familiar in a way that went beyond casual resemblance to someone Jennifer might know. It wasn't until Jennifer pulled out her phone to check her messages that the connection finally clicked. She had been scrolling through her photos from the previous day's sightseeing when she accidentally swiped past a screenshot she had saved several weeks earlier. The image was a missing person poster that had been circulating on social media, something Jennifer had saved because she, like many people, felt compelled to share such posts in the hope that someone, somewhere might provide information that could help reunite families. The poster featured a photograph of a 10-year-old girl with blonde hair and green eyes, smiling brightly at the camera. Below the photo was information about Anna Wilson, who had disappeared from a shopping center in Manchester 14 years ago. The case had received significant media attention at the time, and periodic updates still appeared in local news when anniversaries of the disappearance occurred or when police had new leads to investigate. Jennifer stared at the screenshot on her phone, then looked up at Katharina, who was clearing tables on the other side of the cafe. The resemblance was unmistakable once she made the connection. The same distinctive eye color, the same facial structure, even the same way of holding her head slightly tilted when listening to someone speak. But the age progression didn't quite make sense. Anna Wilson would be 24 now, which matched Katharina's apparent age. The facial features were remarkably similar, allowing for 14 years of growth and maturation. But Anna Wilson had disappeared from Manchester, England, and here was a young woman working in Berlin who spoke German like a native and seemed completely integrated into German society. Jennifer tried to rationalize the resemblance. Coincidences happened all the time. People often looked similar to others without being related. The chances of actually encountering a missing person in a random cafe in a foreign country seemed astronomical. Moreover, this young woman appeared to be living a normal life, working in a respectable establishment, showing no signs of distress or coercion. But the resemblance was so striking that Jennifer couldn't simply dismiss it. She found herself continuing to observe Katharina throughout the morning, looking for additional details that might either confirm or refute her suspicion. The young woman's English, when she occasionally spoke to foreign customers, was accented but fluent, the kind of proficiency that suggested significant education or immersion rather than casual study. More intriguingly, Jennifer noticed that Katharina seemed hyper-aware of her surroundings in a way that went beyond normal customer service attentiveness. Her eyes frequently scanned the cafe's entrance and windows, and she positioned herself to maintain clear sightlines to all exits. When new customers entered, she would assess them briefly but thoroughly before approaching to take their orders. These behaviors struck Jennifer as the kind of situational awareness exhibited by someone who had learned to be cautious, someone who had experienced threats or dangers that required constant vigilance. It was not the relaxed demeanor of a young woman simply working her way through university or pursuing a career in hospitality. By noon, Jennifer had made a decision that would change multiple lives forever. She approached the counter where Katerina was preparing coffee orders and waited for a moment when they could speak privately. "Excuse me," Jennifer said in English. "I hope you don't mind me asking, but you look very familiar to me. Have you ever been to Manchester?" Katerina's response was immediate and telling. Her entire body tensed, her hands froze mid-motion while preparing a cappuccino, and her eyes darted toward the cafe's entrance as if calculating escape routes. When she turned back to Jennifer, her professional smile had been replaced by something much more guarded. "I am sorry, I do not understand," Katerina replied in English, but her accent had shifted slightly, becoming more obviously foreign and less confident than her German had been. Jennifer could see that her question had caused genuine alarm, but she felt compelled to continue. She pulled out her phone and navigated to the missing person poster she had saved. "I'm going to show you something, and I hope you won't be frightened," Jennifer said gently, "but I think you might be someone that people have been looking for." She turned her phone screen toward Katerina, displaying the missing person poster with 10-year-old Anna Wilson's photograph. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Katerina's face went completely white, her hands began to tremble, and she looked around the cafe with obvious panic. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said the words that would haunt Jennifer for the rest of her life. "Please don't tell them you found me." The admission was everything and nothing that Jennifer had expected. It confirmed that this young woman was indeed Anna Wilson, the missing child from Manchester, whose disappearance had become one of the region's most enduring unsolved cases. But it also revealed that Anna's current situation was far more complex and dangerous than a simple case of a runaway teenager who had started a new life abroad. "Who?" Jennifer asked, leaning closer and speaking quietly. "Who can't I tell?" "Anna," because Jennifer now knew that's who she was dealing with, glanced around the cafe again, then made a quick decision. "I cannot talk here. It is not safe. They watch." "Who watches?" Jennifer pressed. "Please," Anna said, her English becoming more natural as her distress increased. "If you want to help me, meet me at the Café Einstein on Unter den Linden at 6 o'clock tonight. Come alone, and please don't contact anyone until after we talk." With that, Anna turned away and busied herself with coffee preparation, effectively ending the conversation. But Jennifer could see that her hands continued to shake as she worked, and she kept glancing toward the windows as if expecting someone to appear at any moment. Jennifer left the cafe with her mind racing. She had accidentally stumbled upon what appeared to be a major missing persons case, but Anna's reaction suggested that the situation was far more complicated than a simple rescue scenario. The young woman was clearly living under some form of threat or coercion, and her fear seemed genuine and immediate. The afternoon hours crawled by as Jennifer tried to process what had happened and decide how to proceed. Her instinct was to contact the police immediately, but Anna's desperate plea to wait suggested that immediate official intervention might actually put her in greater danger. Jennifer had read enough about human trafficking and coercive situations to understand that victims were often threatened with severe consequences if they attempted to escape or seek help. At the same time, Jennifer felt an enormous responsibility to Anna's family, particularly her mother, who had presumably spent 14 years searching for her missing daughter. The ethical implications were staggering. She had information that could reunite a family, but acting on that information might endanger the very person she was trying to help. Jennifer decided to honor Anna's request to meet privately before taking any other action. If Anna was being held or controlled by criminals, Jennifer needed to understand the situation fully before involving authorities who might inadvertently trigger a dangerous escalation. The Café Einstein was a historic establishment in central Berlin, busy enough to provide some anonymity, but public enough to feel relatively safe. Jennifer arrived early and chose a table that offered good visibility of the entrance while providing some privacy for conversation. Anna appeared precisely at 6 o'clock, but her appearance had changed dramatically since the morning. Gone was the efficient waitress uniform, replaced by nondescript dark clothing that seemed designed to help her blend into crowds. Her hair was partially hidden under a knit cap, and she wore sunglasses despite the indoor setting. She approached Jennifer's table cautiously, scanning the other patrons before sitting down with her back to the wall and a clear view of all exits. Her body language radiated the hypervigilance of someone accustomed to danger. "Thank you for coming," Anna said quietly, "and thank you for not calling the police immediately." "I almost did," Jennifer admitted. "Your family has been searching for you for 14 years. Your mother—" Anna's face crumpled at the mention of her mother. Is she still alive? Is she still looking?" "Yes, she's still alive, and yes, she's never stopped looking. Margaret Wilson has done interviews, maintained websites, worked with missing persons organizations. She's never given up hope." Tears began streaming down Anna's face, the first genuine emotion Jennifer had seen from her since the morning shock of recognition. For several minutes, Anna cried silently while Jennifer waited, offering tissues and gentle reassurance that they had time to talk. "I thought they would have given up by now," Anna finally said. "I thought maybe it would be easier for them to think I was dead. Why haven't you contacted them? What's keeping you here?" Anna looked around the cafe nervously before answering. "Because I'm not free to leave. I haven't been free since I was taken." What followed was one of the most horrifying stories Jennifer had ever heard. Anna explained that she had been abducted from the Manchester shopping centre by a man who had approached her pretending to be a security guard, claiming that her mother had been in an accident and was asking for her at the hospital. Frightened and trusting, 10-year-old Anna had followed him to what she thought would be transportation to see her injured mother. Instead, she had been drugged and transported to a network of people who specialized in trafficking children for various forms of exploitation. The network was sophisticated and international, moving children between countries to make them harder to trace and rescue. Anna had spent her first 2 years in captivity being moved between different locations in Eastern Europe where she was forced to work in various illegal operations while being systematically brainwashed to believe that her family had abandoned her and that attempting to escape would result in their deaths. "They showed me fake newspaper articles saying my family had given up searching," Anna explained. "They told me my parents had died in a car crash. They convinced me that I was alone in the world and that they were the only people who would take care of me." When she was 13, Anna had been moved to Berlin and given a new identity as Katharina Schmidt, supposedly the orphaned daughter of German immigrants who had died in an accident. The identity was complete with forged documents, school records, and a carefully constructed backstory that would satisfy casual investigation. "They trained me to speak German perfectly," Anna continued. "They gave me a German education, German friends, a German life. On the surface, I looked like any other teenager, but I was never free. They monitored everything, where I went, who I talked to, what I did, and they reminded me constantly that my freedom depended on my cooperation." The cafe job was part of an elaborate scheme to launder money through legitimate businesses while providing cover for the trafficking operation. Anna worked regular hours and received a small salary, but the majority of her earnings went to her handlers. More importantly, her presence in the cafe allowed her controllers to maintain surveillance on her activities while appearing to give her a normal life. "They told me that if I ever tried to escape or contact authorities, they would not only kill me but also track down and kill my family in England," Anna said. "After living with them for so many years, I knew they had the resources and connections to carry out those threats." Jennifer was horrified by the sophistication of the operation Anna described. This wasn't a simple kidnapping but rather a long-term systematic exploitation that had turned a missing child into what appeared to be a willing participant in her own captivity. "But you're talking to me now," Jennifer pointed out. "What's changed?" Anna was quiet for a long moment before answering. "Last month, one of the other girls in the network tried to escape. They caught her and they made an example of her to keep the rest of us in line. I realized that I've been waiting 14 years for the right moment to get free, but there will never be a right moment. There's only now." The other girls Anna mentioned represented a revelation that multiplied the scope of the criminal operation. Anna explained that there were at least a dozen young women in similar situations throughout Berlin and other German cities, all of them trafficking victims who had been given false identities and forced to work in legitimate businesses that served as fronts for money laundering and continued exploitation. "Some of them were taken as children like me," Anna said. "Others were trafficked as teenagers or young adults. We all have the same story. We're trapped between our fear of our captors and our fear of what they'll do to our families if we try to get help." Jennifer realized she was dealing with something far beyond a single missing person case. This was evidence of an international trafficking network that had been operating for years, possibly decades, with multiple victims who were too frightened to seek help through normal channels. "What do you need from me?" Jennifer asked. "How can I help you get free without endangering you or your family?" Anna pulled out a small piece of paper with information written on it. "There's a detective with Interpol who specializes in international trafficking cases. His name is Detective Klaus Weber. If you contact him directly and tell him about me, he might be able to coordinate a rescue operation that protects both me and the other girls. What about your mother? Don't you want me to contact her?" "Not yet," Anna said firmly. "If my controllers find out that someone from England is looking for me, they'll know I've been compromised. Detective Weber needs to move against the entire network simultaneously, or they'll just disappear and start over somewhere else with new victims." Jennifer felt the weight of enormous responsibility settling on her shoulders. She was being asked to coordinate an international law enforcement operation while keeping the discovery secret from the very family who had been searching for answers for 14 years. "How do I know Detective Weber is legitimate?" Jennifer asked. "How do I know this isn't some kind of trap?" Anna smiled for the first time since they had begun talking, expression that transformed her face and gave Jennifer a glimpse of the child she had once been. "Because you're going to verify everything before you act. You're a librarian. Research is what you do." Over the next hour, Anna provided Jennifer with detailed information about the trafficking network, including names, locations, and operational details that she had observed during her years of captivity. She also explained the specific security measures that would need to be in place to protect both the existing victims and their families during any rescue operation. "They have people watching me even when I'm not at work," Anna explained. "If I don't return home tonight at my usual time, or if I deviate from my normal routine, they'll know something is wrong. So I need to go back and pretend that nothing has changed while you work on getting help." The idea of allowing Anna to return to her captors after finally making contact was agonizing for Jennifer, but she understood the logic. Premature action could result in Anna and the other victims being moved or killed before authorities could intervene. "How will I know if you're safe?" Jennifer asked. "I'll try to stop by the original cafe tomorrow morning if I can. If I don't appear by noon, assume something has gone wrong and contact Detective Weber immediately." They parted ways at the cafe, with Jennifer watching Anna disappear into the Berlin crowd while carrying the weight of 14 years of secrets and suffering. Jennifer returned to her hotel room with a mission that had completely transformed her vacation into something resembling an international espionage operation. Her first priority was verifying Detective Weber's credentials and developing a plan for making contact without alerting the trafficking network to Anna's compromised status. Using her research skills and the hotel's internet connection, Jennifer spent the night investigating Interpol's organizational structure, locating Detective Weber's official contact information, and preparing a detailed report of everything Anna had told her. Detective Klaus Weber, as it turned out, was exactly who Anna had claimed him to be. Jennifer found multiple references to his work on international trafficking cases, including several high-profile rescues that had resulted in the dismantling of criminal networks, similar to what Anna had described. His official Interpol profile indicated that he specialized in long-term undercover operations targeting sophisticated trafficking organizations. Jennifer crafted her initial contact email carefully, providing enough detail to convince Detective Weber that she had legitimate information while avoiding specifics that could be dangerous if the communication was intercepted. She sent the message at 3 a.m. Berlin time, hoping to reach Weber before his normal business day began. The response came faster than Jennifer had expected. Detective Weber's reply, sent from his official Interpol email address, requested an immediate phone conversation using a secure line he would provide. Within 12 hours of her chance encounter with Anna at the cafe, Jennifer found herself briefing an Interpol detective on an international trafficking case. "Miss Hayes," Detective Weber said during their encrypted phone call, "what you're describing matches intelligence we've been developing about a network we've been tracking for several years. The victim you encountered may be the break we've needed to move against this organization." Detective Weber explained that Interpol had been aware of trafficking activities in Berlin, but had been unable to identify specific victims or gather enough evidence to justify raids. The network Anna described was suspected of moving victims between multiple European countries, making investigation and prosecution extremely difficult under normal circumstances. "The young woman you met, did she mention any names or specific locations beyond what you've already told me?" Jennifer shared all the details Anna had provided, including the names of businesses suspected of being fronts for the operation, and the approximate locations where other victims were believed to be held. Detective Weber's responses indicated that this information corroborated existing intelligence and provided new leads that could be crucial for a successful operation. We'll need to move quickly, Detective Weber said. If this network suspects that one of their victims has made contact with outside help, they have demonstrated a willingness to eliminate both victims and witnesses to protect their operation. The next morning, Jennifer returned to the original cafe where she had met Anna, ostensibly to enjoy another leisurely breakfast while actually conducting surveillance to confirm Anna's safety. She felt like an amateur spy, trying to appear casual while carefully observing everyone who entered and exited the establishment. Anna appeared for her shift at exactly the same time as the previous day. Dressed in her waitress uniform and displaying the same professional demeanor Jennifer had initially observed. But when their eyes met briefly across the cafe, Anna gave an almost imperceptible nod that Jennifer interpreted as confirmation that she was safe and that their plan remained viable. Jennifer ordered coffee and settled in to wait, knowing that Detective Weber and his team were conducting their own surveillance of the cafe and the surrounding area. The operation had moved into a phase where law enforcement professionals took control, but Jennifer remained as a backup communication channel in case Anna needed to pass additional information or warnings. The rescue operation, when it finally occurred 3 days later, was swift and coordinated across multiple locations simultaneously. Jennifer, who had remained in Berlin at Detective Weber's request, watched from a distance as police units moved against the cafe and several other businesses across the city. Anna was among 15 victims rescued during the operation, which also resulted in the arrest of 23 suspects and the seizure of documents and evidence that would lead to additional arrests across several countries. The network that had held Anna captive for 14 years was dismantled in a matter of hours, though the legal proceedings would continue for months. Detective Weber personally escorted Anna to a secure facility where she could begin the process of reclaiming her identity and reconnecting with her family. The reunion with her mother would be carefully managed to ensure both Anna's psychological well-being and her safety from any remaining network associates who might have avoided capture. Mrs. Hayes, Detective Weber told Jennifer after the operation concluded, "Your decision to trust this young woman's judgment and work through proper channels likely saved multiple lives. If you had contacted local police immediately or attempted to handle this yourself, the results could have been catastrophic." Jennifer's role in the rescue operation received minimal public attention, which was exactly what she preferred. The story that emerged in the media focused on the international cooperation that had led to the network's dismantling and the rescue of multiple trafficking victims, without providing details that could compromise ongoing investigations or endanger the survivors. Margaret Wilson, Anna's mother, finally received the phone call she had been hoping for throughout 14 years of searching. The reunion between mother and daughter was emotional and complex, requiring months of counseling and support to help both women process the trauma of their extended separation and Anna's experiences in captivity. Anna's recovery involved not only psychological healing, but also the practical challenges of reclaiming her legal identity, learning to live without the constant surveillance and control she had experienced for most of her life, and deciding what kind of future she wanted to pursue with her newfound freedom. The legal proceedings against the trafficking network resulted in multiple convictions and lengthy prison sentences for the primary operators. Evidence gathered during the investigation led to additional rescue operations in other countries, ultimately liberating more than 40 victims from various forms of trafficking and exploitation. Jennifer returned to Manchester with a completely different perspective on both her vacation experience and her role as an ordinary citizen who had accidentally become involved in an extraordinary situation. The chance encounter in a Berlin cafe had demonstrated how seemingly routine interactions could have profound consequences when approached with attention and courage. 6 months after the rescue operation, Jennifer received a letter from Anna, who was slowly rebuilding her life with her family while pursuing the education she had been denied during her years in captivity. The letter thanked Jennifer not only for her role in the rescue, but also for trusting Anna's judgment about how to handle the situation safely. "You gave me the first choice I had made for myself in 14 years, Anna wrote. "You could have decided what was best for me without asking, but instead you listened to what I needed and helped me find a way to get free without endangering other people. That meant everything to me." The experience changed Jennifer's understanding of missing persons cases and the complex realities faced by trafficking victims. She became an advocate for improved training for citizens on how to recognize and report suspected trafficking situations, emphasizing the importance of working through proper channels to avoid inadvertently endangering victims. Anna's story became part of law enforcement training programs, demonstrating how trafficking networks adapted their methods to keep victims hidden in plain sight and how ordinary citizens could play crucial roles in identification and rescue operations when they approached such situations with appropriate caution and professional support. The Berlin Café where Jennifer had first recognized Anna eventually reopened under new management, with no connection to the criminal network that had used it as a front. But for Jennifer, it remained a reminder that extraordinary situations could arise anywhere, and that paying attention to one's instincts could sometimes mean the difference between a victim remaining trapped and finding freedom. Years later, when people asked Jennifer about her role in Anna's rescue, she would emphasize that the real hero of the story was Anna herself, who had survived 14 years of captivity while maintaining enough hope and courage to seize the opportunity for freedom when it finally appeared. Jennifer had simply been fortunate enough to be in the right place at the right time, with the wisdom to listen carefully and act thoughtfully when a desperate young woman asked for help. The case demonstrated that missing persons investigations could span decades and cross international boundaries, but that resolution was possible even in the most complex circumstances when victims, law enforcement, and ordinary citizens worked together with patience, courage, and careful planning. For Margaret Wilson and her daughter Anna, it meant the end of a 14-year nightmare and the beginning of a new chapter in their relationship that neither had dared to hope was possible. Jennifer's accidental discovery in a Berlin café had not only reunited a family, but had also struck a significant blow against an international criminal network that had exploited dozens of victims. It was a reminder that heroism often emerged from ordinary situations when people chose to pay attention, trust their instincts, and take appropriate action to help others in need.